Hello, everyone. Welcome. So my name is Gürsel. Today I'll be talking about the Blue report. But before we jump into the details, I will give some brief about what we will discuss today. But first of all, I would like to explain some details about our program today and then platform today we are going to use. So while we are waiting for some attendees, I would like to highlight some important topics about the platform itself. So you can download the entire content from the right-hand side up in the page. There is a documentation part, so you can download the report directly from there. So there are some additional content, so I will explain what those contents are. And then if you have any questions during the presentation, you can ask from the Q&A section. So I would like to help you for replying those questions as well. So I'm planning to give some additional minutes at the end of the presentation to go over the Q&As. So I would like to wait for a couple of minutes for the late joiners. Then I will start the presentation real quick. Welcome again. So I'm seeing that there are many joiners from different regions. So it is good to see that you're connecting from all around the world. So I hope you'll enjoy during the session. So I'm planning this session to go through the report a bit, and then I would like to also highlight some important points on the platform side. So how we can operationalize these findings that we see on the report. So this will be helpful for everyone to understand, to see with the actual guidance, how can we see the actual output that we see on the platform report side and also on the platform side, and then take an action accordingly. So I guess I can start. So I will share my screen real quick. Okay, I guess this is visible. Perfect. Thank you very much. Again, good afternoon. So welcome to our review of the Picus Blue report for this year. So my name is Gürsel, and I'm leading the solution architect teams globally, almost 8 years. So this report is our third annual study. So it's built on incredible foundation over 160 million real-world attack simulations conducted anonymously across our customer base. So today we are moving beyond the theory and lab tests to give you an evidence-based look at what actually working and what isn't in enterprise security. So today our goal is to provide a practical guide to help you to validate your assumptions, prioritize with the confidence, and then ultimately prove the effectiveness of your security program. So this report is designed as a practical guide for the security leaders aiming to mature their posture through the continuous threat exposure management, or CTEM program. So this year, we have expanded our analysis to assess the prevention against the specific MITRE techniques, revealing some alarming gaps against the frequently used adversary behaviors. So everything you see is grounded in evidence. What actually blocked the attacks, what only generates a log, and then what produces a meaningful alert or offense. So we are not here to point a finger at the tool. So we are here to replace the assumptions with the data you can act on. So you will leave from here with a clear benchmark and understanding of the blind spots that matter most, and then set the prescriptive fixes you can use to make a measurable impact in weeks, not years actually. So I would like to talk about some numbers, the critical findings. So while overall prevention sits around as 62%, this is a real story is in the specific gaps adversaries are exploiting. First, the data exfiltration defense has collapsed to an alarming 3% prevention rate. So this is happening just as a ransomware group have shifted the double extortion tactics and info stealers have surged by 300%. So it is massive, right? So urgent blind spot. So secondly, when you look at the credential-based attacks are more successful ever than ever. So in our 46 of our tests, at least one password hash was cracked, nearly double when you compare with the previous last year's rate. So once the hackers get the credentials, they can operate freely. So the attacks using valid account have a 98% success rate, unfortunately, bleeding in perfectly with the normal traffic. These specific failures actually highlight why the overall scores can be misleading. While the log score is flat around 54% and alert score is only 14. So it is the quality and context what we are missing that matter most. So actually the takeaway is very simple here. The effectiveness drifts unless you validate and tune the continuously, right? The security teams need to close that gap end to end, including source coverage, parsing issues or cross-selling issues, correctional logics, and the threshold and escalation. Then rerun to prove the lift. So I want to talk from the prevention perspective, first of all. So last year we saw a significant 10-point gain, jumping from 59 to 69. But this year the average score declined to 62%. So the story here isn't a failure, it's a drift. So the security controls are not set and forget tools, right? So they degrade over time and requires a continuous validation to remain effective. The 7-point tip shows how quickly and easily defenses can degrade without continuous oversight and tuning. So the way to hold and grow these gains in to operate a simple loop. Validate the real adversary behaviors in your production environment and then apply the recommendations and then revalidate to prove the lift. So this turns the security into repeatable routine that keeps the prevention trending up. So I would like to show it in the platform how we can operationalize this approach in the real infrastructure. So I have a demonstration environment here. So actually everything that you see in this report is requires a different approaches. So Picus can help you on that piece with different type of approaches. So in this platform, we have 5 different products. So, due to the limitation of the time, I'll be focusing on the breach attack simulation, but quickly I can explain some approaches in here. We have an attack path validation solution, which is helping the pen testing operations out. So DRV, detection rule validation, is a kind of SIEM consultant for us. Attack surface validation piece. So this is a internal cyber asset management tool for the prioritization to see the big risk, and then cloud security validation part. So today I'll be focusing on the security control validation. In a dashboard, if I ask a question to you, okay, so do you know how effective your security controls right now? Can you give a number or at least some evidence about the efficacy of your security tools? So it's a very simple question, but it is really hard to find a answer to this question. So by leveraging the numeric values is easy to explain what we have today. And if you can support these explanations with the real metrics by leveraging the real world attacks, then you will feel comfortable. So in the platform side, you are seeing a couple of numbers in here. So it is showing the overall prevention rate and detection rate for us. So of course, I will connect the dots with the report right now. So in the Picus side, we have an attack templates. These templates are consisting of our attacks that we have in the library. So you can see different type of attack profiles in here. As soon as you log into the platform will create a specific attack templates according to your region, vertical, company vertical, territory, and then you can easily run these attacks to get those numbers. So, but for today, I would like to go through some suggestions which are created by our Picus labs. So when you click the security suggested by Picus labs, you will see some specific attack templates for that mentioned to the blue report. So what I'm seeing in here, so least prevented threat groups or network infiltrations. So these are kind of malwares, exploited files, and etc. So with this attack template, you can test your network security control efficacy plus endpoint control efficacy. So to see where you are is really easy by clicking create a simulation, and then it is showing the agents that we can run these attacks, and then click next. You can choose the protocol that you want to use during this simulation, and then you will be able to schedule it in a daily basis, weekly basis. You can choose, but I would like to go with the instant option. Then it is asking for the detection enrichment. So do you want to check the logs as well after you complete the attacks? So if it is logged or if it is generating an offense or not. So it's an optional part. I will skip this. Then I will run the attacks. So it says the simulation is already exists right now, but doesn't matter. I would like to run it one more time. So what is happening right now? We have an agent in your environment. So this is dedicated to Picus usage and sits behind the security controls that you have, like the other users or other servers. So this agent is trying to download malicious content to test your network security controls. So the simulation is started, but I will not wait for it because, it will take some time. So we don't have that much time, but you are seeing the procedure here. So it is downloading the attacks one by one, and then you are seeing the results immediately here. So I've run this before, so we can go through the findings here. So from the report, we are seeing these threats are not prevented that much after our analysis in our simulations. So a quick question, what is your status right now? So how you can see this picture in your environment, or can you give an answer? Okay, I heard that there's an outlaw threat group campaign. So what is your status right now? So after our analysis, you can see that I've tested 22 threats, and one of them are successfully breached my security stack. I couldn't stop them. So you can dig in the details to find out what is happening and how can I take an action according to this. So if you go a little bit down, as a technical person, you can make a deep dive analysis. So these are the list, and I can focus on the one which I couldn't prevent. So this is the attack which I couldn't prevent. Okay, I want to see the details of this threat. So go for the details and then see this threat variant is not prevented. So of course, you'll be getting a lot of details about the threat, the hash information that we used while testing your infrastructure, and then external references, and the payload information that we utilized. And then, of course, we will be providing a mitigation guidance for this threat. So this is a quicker way to see how is your security controls are reacting against these threats. So I will give a quick heads up to you. So if you want to get this visibility real quick, so you can go to the picussecurity.com. So this is our website. Without installing anything, you can test your infrastructure real quick. You can go to the research and there is an emerging threat simulator. So this is a browser-based assessment. So you don't need to do any installation. So it will utilize your browser and then you can start simulations real quick to see the similar picture. So we will be testing 10 emerging threats real quick to create a visibility. So it will be testing the network security controls. So if you want to investigate or if you want to make more analysis, you can go for the free trial. Then you can make more additional assessments in your organization. So this is what I would like to highlight at this moment. So I want to go back to the slides. I would like to explain something more about the report. So now let's shift to the detection part. In here, the baseline remains a critical area of concern. Our log score held steady at 54%, which means nearly half of the attacker behaviors are still not being logged in most environments. The alert score improved slightly from 12 to 14, but that still means less than 1 in 7 attacks generates a meaningful alert. So this is not a dashboard problem. It's a systematic pipeline problem, actually. So we see the missing telemetry, broken parsing, and then rules that fail to trigger on relevant behaviors. No analytics layer can compensate for the signals that are absent or low quality. The plan is to validate the full detection lifecycle. First, validate the log availability and quality for critical sources. The second, run a safe real-world attack simulations to confirm your rules are actually fired. And the third, tune the content for the fidelity. The goal is simple, close the log to alert gap so your analyst can see the right things fast. So I would like to show something from this perspective in the platform as well. So what I have done, so I'm running these attacks in your organization. So I'm creating visibility from the prevention perspective. Then I can check the things on the detection side as well. How many offense I created, how many logs I collected. So while the things are working at the backend side, so see detection is working after these things, but I will show the things in here. So I'm seeing some of the activities are successfully logged, but some of them are generating an offense, some of them are not. So if you want to dig into details, of course, you can go for the details in here. So I would like to go for this one. The threat is successfully prevented, logged, and generate an offense. When you look at the entire timeline in here, you can see when the attack started, when the attack ended, and when you logged. And also when you are generating an offense. This is really crucial for the organization to understand where you are from the detection perspective, because most probably all of you has a incident response process. But without understanding this timeline, how you can be sure your incident response process working as expected? So in this case, I'm seeing that in 10 minutes, I'm firing an offense for this. So if you want to see the details of these activities, of course, you can focus on, okay, which security controls are sending logs to me? So I'm seeing that checkpoint, in this case, checkpoint is preventing this attack. And then when you look at the offenses, you can see the offense is triggered. So some of my critical assets are firing an offense when they try to download a malware. So if you want to dig in the details, you can see the row log that we see in your SIEM solution or EDR solution. So from the technical perspective, you can make a deep dive analysis around this. But then what will happen? Okay, I'm seeing something here. So you saw the attack template side. There are multiple attacks. So based on your risk appetite or approach, you can run a lot of things. And then the next step will be the fixing the gaps. How we can fix these gaps. So Picus is providing a planner for this. Easily, you can focus on what matter most for the organization. So where should we start? So I did a lots of simulation in my environment. So I want to improve my prevention gap or detection gap, or I want to focus on my critical and high threat gaps. So let's start with this. What can I do for mitigate these risks? I was testing the, network infiltration pieces, and I want to focus on the critical and high risky things in here. That's fine. You can add additional filters in here. So just apply them. And then these are the things that I need to focus right now. So there might be a lots of things, right? So how you can deal with a lots of findings in your organization with the limited time. So I'm focusing on one of them. So I'm assigning a score. This is high risky things for me because the threat itself, high severity. It achieved the all objectives, means that I couldn't stop this threat while I'm downloading in anywhere. So you can see all these details in here. It is not prevented, not logged, and etc. But it is also giving me some highlight. How can I spot this, stop this threat? So it's the mitigation guidance for this threat. This is not prevented. Okay. So this is the first point signature, or this is the trailing signature that you can turn on your device to prevent this attack. So if you want to see the exact details of the things, okay, this is the signature name for checkpoint. So you can enable this signature on the checkpoint side and you can take an action. Then when you start doing this, you will see your score will be increasing. For the detection, so before jumping to the detection, but what will happen after you did this analysis? So you will apply some signatures and etc. Then you will require to rerun this attack to see if your prevention actions are working as expected. Similarly for the detection part as well. So if you want to focus on the detection part, I want to focus on my detection gaps. This is not prevented, maybe not detected as well. So when you look at the details, it is showing me the gaps in here. So when you look at the details, for example, this one, so it is telling me how can I detect this activity. So I was using CrowdStrike in my demo environment. So from the detection perspective, I can see the rule query for generating an offense. So this is the query that I need to put on my EDR. And with a single click, you can deploy the query from here, and then you can see the results if the query worked as expected to detect this kind of activities or not. So I'm coming back to the slides. In the report side, now I'm moving from broad tactics to specific techniques. So we see a clear pattern. So the simplest behaviors that blend in with normal activity that are most successful for the attackers. So starting with the identity, right? Valid account technique had the lowest prevention rate at just 2%. When the attackers use a stolen or weak credentials, they look the legitimate users, and most controls are blind to this. The another one is the reconnaissance part. Techniques like a system network configuration discovery, 3% only. And the process discovery is 11. Also poorly prevented because they often use native systems to generate very little noise in the environment. So if these actions are invisible, attackers can map your estate freely. So finally, it is coming to the evasion, and then C2 techniques remain highly effective. Data encoding part, used to hide the outbound traffic, is only stopped 3%. So, and using common application layer protocols like HTTPS for C2 is only stopped 18% of the time. So this highlights the limitation of the static detections, and they need a stronger behavioral analysis. So what we can do about this, again, so there is a different approach. Again, I'm going to do threat template side, and I will focus on the suggested Picus lab simulations in here. So what I'm seeing, there is a blue report, least prevented ransomware groups for the endpoint piece. So now I will focus on the behaviors. When you simulate these attacks, you will see the least prevented things in the organization. So let's start with this. Again, I'm skipping here real quick. When you launch, I've run this before as well. So now I'm testing these behaviors on my endpoints to see how my operating system hardening helps me to keep these ransomware gangs away, or EDR keeps these gangs away from my environment, from prevention plus detection perspective. So to save the time, I don't want to spend that much time, but what is happening in here? So actually, the black byte is one of the ransomware group we are seeing a lot, and this is the mostly missing one. So it's a chain of commands. So it is different than the malware attacks. We are not just downloading. We are doing a real world. We are doing a reverse engineering to the real world attacks and then finding their behaviors. According to those behaviors, we are finding, bits and bytes and creating our own attacks to execute them in your environment without being harmful. Also, we are adding a reverse engineering to the threats. So see, these ransomware gangs are using some .NET files for the initial access and then executing something and then doing some discovery stuff, doing lateral movement, and at the end, they are doing an impact. So they are deleting the volume shadow copy, encrypting something inside the machine, and then giving some notes on the desktop. So again, from a similar perspective, we were focusing on the MITRE tactic and techniques rather than the threat itself. So just check the discovery part. So it is trying to gather the system language, because some of the attacks are activating itself when they see some specific language, like a Russian language on the operating system. They're activating themselves. So to see the details in here, again, similarly, I'm saying there is an attack starting time, attack detecting and creating an offense time, and ending time. This is not prevented, that's fine. But also I'm seeing the payload that I've executed here. When you look at this payload, it doesn't seem a kind of a malicious activity, right? It is very common things to learn these operating system language, but it's a kind of way to learn some details about your environment. So there are many examples like this. So we are providing a terminal output. I've run these commands and I'm seeing that it is not prevented. So when you look at the log details, I'm seeing that I saw some activities. My EDR didn't generate anything about this. It could be because it's not a malicious activity. But by configuring my SIEM solution, I collect some sysmons or PowerShell logs from my environment, then I'll be able to generate an offense. Somebody is trying to do something unexpected in my environment. So again, from the detection perspective, if you are not collecting the right logs, if you are not generating an offense, I can tell you what needs to be done. Okay, you need to collect the Windows operational PowerShell operational logs, and this is the configuration you need to do to collect the right level of logs from a client. And then this is the query that you need to put for generating an offense. You can easily deploy query from here, and then you can make some fine tuning if you like for your critical assets. If you see these things on my clients, then you can trigger an offense. So, this is a simple simulation that I showed by tying this to our Blue report. But think from the MITRE perspective, there are lots of tactics and techniques. So there are a different type of discovery techniques to collect information about your network, Active Directory, and many stuff, right? So from the attack templates, you can run many templates to create a big picture. So after collecting all these informations, after running all these attacks, then you can see the big picture by mapping them into the MITRE. So you can create your defense strategy by relying on the MITRE from the tactic and technique perspective. So in here, you see there's a discovery section. I've tested 515 actions in here. So you can see the all bits and bytes in here. System discovery here. When you click on it, you can see the available actions that I've run. So you can see the results in here, and then you can focus on the missing points in here. This is how we can leverage the platform to see this big picture. So moving forward, I want to touch something different. So when we break down prevention by attack vector, one finding stands out as a single biggest business risk on the board: data exfiltration pieces. So the prevention effectiveness here has plummeted to just to 3%, down from already low 90% last year. This is a critical failure, especially when our red report shows the info stealer activities has tripled, and the ransomware groups now focusing on stealing data for extortion. So most organizations simply lack the granular control to stop covert outbound data theft. So what we can do about this? Different type of threats, right? So if you want to focus on the data exfiltration side, again, I would like to jump to the UI again. But before this, I would like to highlight something about the red report. So every year we are releasing two different reports. One is red, the second one is blue. So today content is more for prevention and detection focused. But the red report is approaching to things from the red teaming perspective, more focusing on the attacks, tactic, and techniques. So you can download the report from the docs that I mentioned in the beginning of the conversation. So coming back to the data theft. So in our library, there are 6 different attack modules that we can leverage for testing different security stacks. So data exfiltration is one of them. So there are predefined attacks in here, or sensitive data, I should say, for testing purposes. Also, you can upload your own sample critical data here to test your security controls. What we have, I will go through one of them. So I'm not interested with the details about the data right now, but I want to show you how I can test this environment. So this one, for example. When you click on this, see, there are different type of exfiltration techniques: HTTPS, HTTP, TCP. But beside this, also there's a obfuscation techniques to evade the security controls. you can encode the critical data while sending out from here. So, just select one of them and then click and see if we can exfiltrate this data to outside or not. So, and there is another way to test this, which is the DNS tunneling. So DNS tunneling is something different. We are leveraging the DNS protocol to exfiltrate the data. Again, this is helping us to test the DNS protection tools, actually, DNS firewalls, or through the email or by uploading the things and etc. Right? So just click and select one of them and then simulate now, and then you can see the data is going outside. So at the end, the idea is to test all your security controls are ready against the malicious activities, test your infrastructure before the bad guys test, and then take irrelevant actions. So what these reports are telling us, actually, there are interesting findings in here. So the prevention effectiveness varies significantly by industry, and the data tells a compelling story. So the healthcare and pharma industry leads the all sectors with the 83%. This is really strong performance. But I will not read all of them in here, but you can see where your sector is here and then what are their performance. Just ask a simple questions to yourself, where you are. I've talked about the endpoint efficacy. I'll talk about the MITRE visibility from prevention perspective plus detection perspective. And then right now, where you are. So we need to be able to give an answer to these kind of questions. And these numbers could be a kind of KPI to explain your maturity to the upper level. You can define as a KPI. This is really important for the top management to see how they are investing and how they are also utilizing that investment. So it could be a part of the ROI calculation. So this bring us to the core lesson from this year report. So we must challenge the assumption that create a false sense of security. So many teams trust their controls are working until a real test or real incident proves the otherwise. So there are many myths about the security, right? So like the logging equals visibility, but this data shows this is an illusion. So with the flat 54% of the log source, nearly half of the attacker behaviors are never even captured. And collecting telemetry is not the same as understanding and then escalated it, right? So if you are collecting something and if you're not generating an offense, this is a big problem. Second myth is the prevention tools provide a guaranteed protection. But in reality, security controls degrade over time due to configuration drift, software updates, and new adversary techniques. That 7-point drop in overall prevention we saw earlier is a direct evidence of this control drift in action, right? So to close this gap, we must adopt an assume breach mindset. This means replacing one of assessment with recurring validation sprints to find and fix the silent failures before the adversaries can exploit them. So let's turn key findings into the actionable plan. First, we must shift from chasing every vulnerability to validating through adversarial exposure. focus on the risks that are actually exploitable in your environment. So with the data exfiltration prevention at just 3%, we have to close this gap. This means that we need to validate our DLP, egress filters, and behavioral detection until you can prove that they block the convert transfers. Credential security, password, I mentioned 46% password cracking success rate is unacceptable. We need to enforce stronger policies for this, eliminate legacy hashes, and then use simulated attacks to validate your defenses are working. So these are the important things. We need to focus and we need to take an action immediately. Thanks for listening us today. I hope it's a valuable presentation for you. You got some important points. So I would like to jump to the questionnaire section. So I guess that is the one. It sounds like a pen testing tool. So there are some similarities, but the approach is really different. So I've explained 5 different products initially. The security control validation is helping to the pen testers, of course, to speeding up their pen test activities based on their motivation. One is creating a MITRE visibility real quick, and then helps us to create a customized scenarios and etc. So we are speeding up those processes. But the main idea to see the big picture, how we are reacting against the real attack groups. So in many pen test operations, they are not that much focusing on the threat itself or emerging threat itself, and then in the pen test automation they are focusing on annually scanning on the application side mostly. But this is helping us to prove that we are protecting against the real threats by leveraging our security controls from prevention plus detection perspective. There is a pen test approach on APV side, which we didn't talk today. So I hope we can have another session for explaining that piece. That is another question Hisham is asking. Approach of validating through exposure, not inventory. I think this may impact compliance and regulation requirements. The approach of validation, not the inventory. So the exposure validation term is an new term in our world. Actually, it was there for a long time, but what we are doing as of today. So in the beginning, I just showing the entire platform to you, right? So the security control validation is the core of the exposure validation. So we need to be aware of our assets. We need to be aware of our vulnerabilities. We need to be aware of our weaknesses inside the network. We need to be aware of our detection rates. We need to be aware of our prevention control efficacy. If you can bring all these information together, then you will be able to see the big picture. So we are, as Picus, we are calling this is the exposure validation pieces. So what we are doing, we are collecting all this information into our data fabric and then melt down the things and then find what matter most for the organization. So this is really helpful for the compliance things, of course, helping a lot. Because in the most of the compliance questionnaire, they are just asking, do you do a vulnerability scanning, and then are you fixing the things that you find? So when you look at from that angle, it is a kind of war that you will never win, because every day there are different vulnerabilities which you cannot patch, even they may not be exploitable and etc. So what you can do at that stage, when you try to be compliant for that regulation, so you need to just do a kind of box ticking. Okay, regulation says you need to do this. Okay, I'm scanning my environment. That's fine. Then I'm applying the patches. I'm a bit behind, but that's fine. But this is not the clever way to follow the regulations. So what I can do about this? Okay, I can focus on the vulnerability. I can check the asset criticality also. I can focus on the CVSS. I can focus on the exploitability. I can check if this asset is internet facing asset or not. And then I can check if my compensating controls are preventing this asset against the threat that may exploit that vulnerability on the asset. When you combine all these things and then when you prioritize your findings, this will save you actually. And then this will make you very compliant. This is what we are thinking about this. So I hope this is an answer to your question.